Let's start our conversation there with our headliner, Republican Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa. Good morning, Senator. Sandra here as well. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Ed and Sandra. Great to be with you.
Fantastic to have you here. They're also planning to take down a statue here of President Teddy Roosevelt. Where does all of this end, Senator?
Well, that is a very good question, and one that we would like to know the answer to. I think this has gone far enough. We need to restore law and order here in the United States. And of course, we support protests, and there are still some folks that are out there protesting police brutality, racial injustice. But peaceful protests is what we are looking for, dialogue. And what we are seeing is just plain old vandalism. That is not protest, that is vandalism. So again, we just need to restore law and order and have healthy dialogue, not what we're seeing on the streets today.
We saw protesters marching through Des Moines, Iowa last night. This is obviously spreading to many other areas of the country as we speak. Senator, what are the demands of those protesters? What are their intentions?
Well, their demands, that's very interesting, because we hear over and over again the calls to defund police, and that's just a liberal talking point. It's out there to be a very provocative statement, but it's not solving the issues that we have in the United States today. Again, that's done through peaceful dialogue and actually finding solutions, real solutions to these very, very hard questions. So again, folks may be demanding this and that across the United States, but they're not actually looking for solutions. Again, they're just trying to be provocative. So let's have some real discussion. Let's sit down and work through these issues. We're not going to find it by vandalizing statues. We're not going to find it by inciting violence in the streets. That's not how we will come to resolution.
Senator, when you say let's, how do we resolve this? How do we move forward? What do the protesters want? We were told the protesters wanted police reform. Democrats in the Senate, where you are right now, have been talking about a police reform bill. You and your colleagues, led by Tim Scott, obviously, came forward with a bill. Breaking in the last few moments, Senate Democrats have now written a letter to Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader, saying that your bill is, quote unquote, not salvageable. What that means, basically, is they're going to filibuster your bill and try to prevent the Republican bill from even getting to the floor for a debate and a vote. Your reaction?
Which is unbelievable. Now, Iowa has led the way. Our Iowa legislature passed police reform a number of weeks ago, and they did it bipartisan. It was unanimously supported through both houses and signed into law by our governor. That's what I would expect to see here in the United States Senate and House. And large in part, probably 80% of the Republican bill, the Justice Act that is being presented, is supported by Democrats. It is increased transparency, data sharing, it is education, it is focusing on de-escalation efforts, all of those wonderful things wrapped up into a bill that would allow our police to do their job while maintaining the safety of the public. And why would the Democrats not want that? Again, it's just to be provocative. Of course, we're in an election year, and the Democrats really don't want solutions by this Republican-led Senate. They don't want solutions found by this Republican president. So, again, very provocative, but why would they not come together when we have an 80% or better solution for police reform?
I want to follow up on that in just a moment, but going back to the bigger picture here of not only police reform, but in some cases we have seen history destroyed during these protests in the United States. Your colleague in the Senate, Tim Scott, was asked about how we move forward, how we still make progress while remembering our country's history. He was asked this morning. Here's how he responded.
Remembering our history is really important. Me celebrating all of our history would be crazy. I'm not going to celebrate all of our history because all of it shouldn't be celebrated, but we should remember it. It is a fantastic landmark for us to realize that progress has been made, progress needs to be made, and it only happens when we work together.
I'm sure you've had a chance to talk to your colleague about this, Senator, but tell us what that discussion is amongst members of Congress about how we move forward, how we make progress in this country while still remembering our history.
Well, I admire Senator Tim Scott immensely. He is a true leader on so many different issues, and he's absolutely correct, and I believe it as well. I don't care what country you're putting up against. America is the greatest country on the face of this planet. Does that mean that we are a perfect country? Absolutely not. But I look at our country and the opportunities and freedoms and values that we represent and why others want to come to this grand nation. And to keep it moving forward, we have to sit down and we have to have discussions about where we go from here, recognizing we have some blemishes in our past, some very ugly, ugly things that have happened here in the country. But we've overcome some of those obstacles, and I expect that we will overcome the obstacles that we see today. But we have to do it in a peaceful manner. We have to sit down and understand, listen a little bit more than we're speaking. And I think that we can do this and we can overcome. Tim Scott is right. Let's celebrate the great parts of our nation, but let's learn from those blemishes in history.
Senator, where do we go from here then on police reform, as Sandra teed up? I mean, you're talking about bringing people together. Let's overcome. And yet you have Democrats saying, as in the words of Mitch McConnell, just made some remarks and basically said that before it's even on the runway, they're blocking this. How do you actually move forward when Democrats don't even want to have a debate over your bill?
We have to bring it up, and I hope that the leader brings the Justice Act to the floor. Allow them to block it. If they are going to block it, we'll call them out on it again. When they agree to 80% of what's in a bill, why on earth would they simply say, we're not going to do it? They're standing in the way of progress, and certainly we want to work through this. We want to come together. We want to do the right thing for our nation. So be it. If they're going to block it, allow them to block and explain why they don't want to see police reform, why they don't want to see transparency, why they don't want to see us educating our police force to do a better job out there. I want to hear their thoughts on that.
There will be weekly party lunches happening today. Expect some pretty pointed comments, we're told, from both sides after those lunches happen. Senator, always great to have you on America's Newsroom. Thanks for coming here today.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.